Now, scientists say they've discovered the actual entryway to the underworld, or at least where the ancients considered it to be. If you're picturing a sinister-looking, pulsating portal, well, not so much. This is what is left of the so-called Pluto's Gate. These ruins in southwest Turkey were once an elaborate temple built around a cave people believed led straight down into the depths of hell. Back in 24 AD, the Greek historian Strabo wrote, "This space is full of a vapor so misty and dense that one can scarcely see the ground. Any animal that passes inside meets instant death."
The team observed the cave's lethal properties after seeing birds die as they got close to the opening because of toxic carbon dioxide fumes. The site was also popular for use in rites of incubation. The fume waters were well known for producing hallucinations. Discovery News reports pilgrims would sleep near the cave and the fumes would often lead to visions and prophecies.
Indonesia's Mount Sinabung has erupted, spitting out volcanic ash, reaching 5 kilometers up into the air. This latest surge comes after 2 days of calm, but it's the third time the volcano has erupted in the past few months, and the second time in just a week. The volcano, which is located 88 kilometers from the city of Medan, had been inactive for more than 400 years before erupting again in August 2010.
Smoke, steam and ash spew forth as a newly formed island pushes through the surface of the sea for the very first time. Japan's meteorological agency says the island's about 200 meters in diameter. It's caused by an underwater volcanic eruption in the southern island chain of Ogasawara. The area is part of the seismically active Pacific Ring of Fire. The government says it's still too early to name the new island, as there have been cases in the past when newly formed land masses have simply slipped back under the waves.
Showed you the homes swallowed by a giant sinkhole in Florida, caught on camera as they fell into the growing pit. Well, more than 250 potential sinkholes have been reported across the state since May of last year.
Angry families here could only watch as Florida officials today started tearing down 2 of their broken homes and pouring sand into the now 90-foot wide sinkhole. The experts tell us there are thousands of possible sinkholes waiting to open up under Florida homes, and these are just the new ones. More than 250 reported since May of last year. This one caught on tape in August outside Orlando. And in March, a man was killed in his own bed when a sinkhole opened up inside his house.
Sve dobro, samo da Trebu ne nađe sebi. 100%.
Bilo je jezero Pečnika možda jednu, ne znam, 40 puta 40, a danas je, Boga mi ima, ja ne znam sad, poprilično velika je rupa, ali svašta se događa i kažem ja, što bi stari ljudi rekli nekad.
Scientists spent the day dissecting an oarfish, one of 2 that turned up on Southern California beaches last week. New at 6 o'clock, 10 News reporter Ashley DiMartino explains why some believe the appearance of the oarfish means that San Diegans should brace themselves for the big one.
like a sea serpent myth.
According to traditional Japanese lore, the oarfish will surface and then beach themselves to show signs of an impending earthquake.
A strange occurrence as not only one but two of the rarest creatures from the deep blue sea wash ashore in the same week in Catalina and Oceanside. The UK's Telegraph newspaper reported that after the big earthquakes in March of 2010 in Haiti and Taiwan, that 10 oarfish washed up in Japan. Problem is, the big earthquake in Japan didn't happen until exactly a year later, in March of 2011.
The number of deadly diseases are reportedly on the rise in war-torn Syria, according to the World Health Organization. Among those cited include hepatitis, typhoid, and the flesh-eating parasitic disease, leishmaniasis, which is thriving in Aleppo, where streets are filled with rotting and uncollected rubbish. Another is polio, a highly infectious disease which invades the nervous system and can cause irreversible paralysis within hours. The WHO says 22 people in northeastern Syria have symptoms considered very likely to be polio, making it the first polio outbreak in Syria for 14 years. There is no cure for polio, although it can be prevented with vaccination. More than 100,000 people have been killed during the ongoing Syrian civil war, and over 2 million have been displaced from their homes. United Nations Humanitarian Chief Valerie Amos is calling on both sides to pause hostilities inside a Damascus suburb until vital medical aid can be delivered.
But we are going to begin this morning with a frightening meningitis outbreak at one of the most prestigious schools in the country, Princeton University.
The number of students diagnosed with meningitis on campus has caused New Jersey health officials to declare an outbreak. But it's what the CDC is doing that's unprecedented.
State and federal officials are taking drastic measures to battle the outbreak of meningitis on the grounds of one of the nation's most distinguished institutions. 7 cases of the potentially deadly bacterial infection have been diagnosed at Princeton University since March. So serious, in fact, the CDC is taking the unprecedented move of importing emergency doses of Bexpero, a meningitis vaccine not yet approved for use in this country. The vaccine, currently only licensed in Europe and Australia, protects against meningitis B, which is the particular strain the students have been diagnosed with. Bacterial meningitis is a dangerous infection of the protective membranes that cover the brain and spinal cord. It's spread through respiratory droplets exchanged through close contact, such as coughing or kissing. If a vaccination plan is rolled out, it could aim to inoculate many of the nearly 8,000 undergraduate and graduate students at Princeton. University officials, however, would not say if the vaccination effort would be launched. The CDC tells ABC News the risk for Princeton students is quite high.
New and deadly virus making global headlines this evening with reports of 3 more deaths. In fact, the disease has killed half of all the people diagnosed with it, a total of 33 now. Tonight it has hopped from the Middle East to Europe, and U.S. health officials are on alert here.
It begins with fever, chills, and muscle aches. Then confusion as rapidly your breathing becomes difficult. It's a mystery killer, and the world's leading health officials are on alert.
We really need, as fast as possible, to learn how to control this virus. We have to try to run faster than the virus does.
It's called MERS, and so far its victims have either traveled to the Middle East or caught it from very close contact with someone who did. But the fear is if it mutates so that it spreads easily between people, it could take off, like SARS, the deadly respiratory virus did 10 years ago, which began in a Hong Kong hotel, first spreading among 12 hotel guests. But when those guests boarded airplanes, they carried the virus across the globe. Within 9 months, there were more than 8,000 cases and more than 700 dead. Tonight, U.S. health officials are on the lookout. If a patient today walks into any ER, anywhere, and shows those suspicious symptoms after travel to the Middle East, health officials will race in to test and isolate them, hoping to contain a possible outbreak here.
Dog owners, be on the lookout. A deadly disease that could take your pet is circulating the country. It's called circovirus, and pets could die in only a matter of days.
Valerie, when dogs first started coming into the vet, lethargic and vomiting, vets didn't know exactly what they were dealing with. But now it's clear the new virus is one that originated in pigs and birds, and vets say there are a lot more questions than answers. Dr. Ashley Rhodes checks Gemma's vitals. She gets a clean bill of health, but other dogs around the country are falling ill to a new and potentially deadly disease. If it gets this bad, she says dogs can suffer severe organ failure, even die. Vets have seen possible cases in Ohio, Michigan, and right next door in California. Experts are not sure how the virus jumped from pigs and birds to man's best friend, but they say between dogs it's highly contagious and more likely to be spread through kennels or dog parks.
Scientists are calling it the biggest explosion in space since the Big Bang. If it happened anywhere near Earth, we wouldn't be here anymore. And the scariest thing is, because of the light spectrum dictating what our eyes can and can't see, we wouldn't have seen it coming. Gamma ray blasts happen when stars run out of fuel before they turn into black holes, and they explode outwards in a relatively narrow and focused supernova. NASA spotted the blast it's saying came from 3.7 billion light years away.
Images that show the effect of temperature rises. NASA releases satellite pictures of an iceberg separating from Pine Island Bay in West Antarctica. This was in October 2011, where the crack could be seen forming. And this was in November this year, when the block of ice had broken away, leaving many smaller ones. The iceberg, which is called B31, is finally moving away from the coast, with open water between it and the edge of Pine Island Glacier. It's estimated to be 35 kilometers by 20 kilometers, roughly the size of Singapore. The carving of this iceberg is not a surprise, as the shelf of Pine Island Glacier has been moving forward at roughly 4 kilometers per year. This event happens every 5 or 6 years, though this iceberg is around twice as larger than previous ones. There is a possibility it could move out into the Southern Ocean. That's if Pine Island Bay clears of ice by February. According to NASA, which way it floats depends on the vertical shape and depth of the iceberg. Many have remained in the bay before exiting, so this really is the waiting game.
We're looking down at the Cheyenne River, and there's an amazing wonder. Brian and Colton saw this thing. They said, come on and see it. It's just west of the bridge in Owego Township on the land here. There's a perfect circle of ice, probably close to 50 feet diameter, spinning in the river. It's an amazing wonder. I don't have a clue how it did it, but that thing is rotating, as you can see.
Tornado outbreak, the massive system rapidly moving across this country tonight. The dark clouds right here behind me moving in over Soldier Field in Chicago on live television today. At least 75 tornadoes reported across the region. This system already deadly. Just look at a twister caught on tape by a couple in their car southwest of Chicago.
This thing was 4 separate ones, and now it's turned into one big one. Okay, this is as close as I ever want to get. Go, 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 go.
That Illinois couple racing to get out of the path of the twisters. In many cities and towns tonight, sweeping views of the destruction. This one from Washington, Illinois, everything gone. In one town, in fact, 50 mobile homes destroyed. The same storm system dumping rain and hail along with fierce winds, gusts reaching up to 75 miles an hour or more.
Within seconds, a quiet Sunday morning turned to mayhem as a vicious storm ripped through the Midwest. This video captured in Washington, Illinois. After the angry funnel clouds, disaster. All as panicked residents seek shelter in the middle of it all.
We're getting hit with some hail, some debris.
Response teams in Washington, Illinois scrambling to create this triage center, preparing for an unknown number of injured storm victims, and launching emergency shelters for all those displaced by this storm. In Peoria, Illinois, at least 50 homes crushed like cardboard boxes. A local hospital reporting at least 37 injuries, all related to the storm. In Long Point, Illinois, many homeowners say the raging storm came in even faster than they ever imagined. In Chicago, the dark clouds swallowed the city's iconic skyline. At Soldier Field, the heavy downpour and violent winds caught 60,000 people in the stands as they waited for the Bears-Ravens game. With lightning striking nearby, officials make a call on the field.
Due to the inclement weather, the game will be temporarily suspended.
The game delayed about 2 hours as fans packed into the concourse area of the stadium for safety. In Indiana, at least 8 counties reporting storm damage. Outside Indianapolis, trees and power lines snapped. In Lebanon, Indiana, this Starbucks store ripped to shreds.
We've got this low pressure system that slid across the Great Lakes. It has that cold front attached. It's really the strong jet stream that made this all very violent and dangerous. And here's what has happened thus far. And I say thus far because we are not done with this. At least 76 tornado reports. Now those are reports, not confirmed. Some of those will be repeated. And more than 200 severe wind reports. So this is just the beginning. From Cincinnati through almost Toledo, and then the moderate risk, which is still very strong, includes Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Charleston, and all the way through Albany, New York City, we have the chance of storms. Tomorrow, the severe threat really focuses in on places like Boston and Portland, Maine.
This is what a 200-mile-per-hour tornado sounds like, ripping through Washington, Illinois, and right into Chris Lancaster's house.